Happy Sunday morning. Today, we're going to have some fun. Let me have my coffee on this wonderful Sunday. Coffee. Dunkin' Donuts and coffee. Brings positive memories, absolutely. So, today's topic is the entrepreneur's biggest enemy, which is moving too fast. When you are in business, it does help and benefit if you're working according to a system, if you're using a system of some sort, a system for yourself, by the way. It doesn't have to be other people's systems. I think it is important for us to develop systems thinking inside of business, inside of life, can be very helpful. And entrepreneurs can feel it the worst. They can feel that I need to do this now. It's got to happen now. That emotional pressure of it all has to be done today. And they fall into impulse. You could almost say that moving quickly could also fall into being impulsive. We treat everything like an emergency and we don't slow down enough to develop a system and gauge what it is that we actually can do. So, speed without any strategy at all will make very expensive mistakes. A lot of people want speed nowadays, because the internet's moving quickly, because of technology is moving fast. We want speed and we want to move quickly. And you have to keep in mind that if you're making quick decisions without understanding the situation, that can cost you. It can cost you relationships with people, cost you money, cost you time, cost you effort, cost you energy. There's a cost to doing things and there's a cost to not doing things. So making quick decisions without understanding, if you don't slow down long enough to understand, it could become a bigger problem down the road. Now, when we're taking in information, so I love competitive intelligence in business. And you have to be able to slow down long enough to take in the information and gather enough information before you go forward. Because if you're taking action but you didn't gather enough info, that can lead to mistakes. The mistakes that can happen is the kind of mistakes that can be costly mistakes. When you are gathering intel, gathering business information, especially if it's competitive intelligence in business, when you gather that info can help you move quickly already. Like, you don't have to move fast. The information that's present is going to help you. The information that's present is going to guide your pace. It's going to give you a pace to move with. And a lot of people have strong, positive ideas. But those strong ideas can go to hell in a handbasket real fast if the timing is wrong and the execution of what you're doing is wrong. So just because you have a strong idea and just because you want to do things fast doesn't constitute that it'll be executed correctly. Businesses need planning, and sometimes we have our strategic planning, which is the long game, and then the tactics, which is the short burst of effort. The tactics serve the long game. And when you are going to be strategic, you have to be strategic for the long game, for the impact of the entire company over a period of, let's say, 5 years. So that's where when you are strategic, it helps you prevent losing money or resources or even time for that matter. There are different businesses, and different businesses will indeed have different rules. And those different rules have cycles. They have limits, what you can, what you can't do, what's possible, what isn't. And there are different industries. Every industry has its own little pattern going on. They have their patterns and they also have their little expectations. When you are leading and dealing with a team, some teams will have limits as to what they can do in their industry and the time that they actually have, and maybe even have limits on what their resources actually are. So, when we're dealing with resources, once those resources are gone, you got a problem. When a team or company is growing, you want that growth to be flexible but somewhat controlled. Flexible in the sense that you allow certain areas to grow but within the boundaries. So it's kind of like a bonsai tree. Have you ever seen a bonsai tree? They may use wire to move the tree branch into a particular direction. It's slow and controlled development of the branch, for the art of it. So growth can't always be forced. It can't be forced. It can't be rushed. So when we look at systems that are in front of us, understanding the system that you're working with business-wise is going to help any leader make a solid, strong direction. So understanding the system within the business is helping you make awesome decisions at the end of the day. Now, there are immature leaders and there are mature leaders. And quite honestly, mature leaders know when to push and know when to wait. When you have experience, you understand how people can move impulsively. And not every opportunity deserves impulsive action right off the bat. Not all the time. Not so fast, as they say. So when we are making a decision inside of business, it requires looking at our sense of urgency, something I was taught many years ago by a female leader who's the best. She's one of the best. She still is one of the best. She taught me that it's okay to have a sense of urgency, but it's also okay to have a sense of patience too. I think what tends to happen with some people is we're so caught up in urgency. We treat everything like an emergency now, especially with our smartphones and all of the technology, that goes down, all of the notifications and the bells and the whistles and the pings that go off. It starts to be a bit much. So patience does require being strategic. Waiting can be a strategic choice. It has nothing to do with appearing weak. And if you are a leader, that your effectiveness as a leader, it requires you to evaluate and be objective, not just the speed. You got to be able to slow down and be able to judge things properly. And that's where discipline comes in. Discipline creates momentum. It's like pushing a rock, not uphill, but on the ground. And eventually, if you keep pushing with a little help, even it'll gain momentum and somewhat of a roll on its own. And that can help you. That can sustain the momentum. Just a little bit of effort. And consistent effort creates long-term progress when you're consistent. Consistency is huge. Can look at consistency in human behavior. What people say and what people do should match. And if they don't, you spot something. There's a trust issue. Something goes down. Systems and routines are there to help you maintain the progress and maintain the growth that you're trying to build. So when you want success to be sustainable, we have to consider what we repeat. You become what you repeat. You become what you absorb. So repeatable action is going to impact the sustainability of your success. And strong businesses are indeed built through patience and focus. Patience is part of it, but focus is another. And of course, consistency. So speed is great because it creates movement. When things are stagnant, it's like, okay, we need some speed here. All right. And that's where it gets fun. Speed creates that. It gets rid of the stagnation. But it's discipline and a system that creates a direction for you. So if you're an entrepreneur, you have to know when to accelerate and when to slow down. I think a lot of people get confused with that goal. They think, oh, I got to move quickly. I got to move now. And that's impulse. Impulsiveness. It's good to build something business-wise that's going to last a long time. So that is the entrepreneur's biggest enemy, moving too fast without strategy. That creates expensive mistakes. Take care. Have a good day. We'll see you in the next one.